have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good evening, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, as always, is my partner, Mark Wages. And you are on the lifeboat. You know, it never fails, Mark. Every single time I say the word lifeboat, whatever I've got on the screen just goes black, like without fail. And then I've got to go and click all of them. It's like they're listening. It's really, really bizarre. I know I sound paranoid, but I say lifeboat and everything just sort of goes only the first time. All right, sorry. So, how are you all? Hope you're doing well. I'll bring you up to speed on a few things. As I mentioned yesterday, having some issues with my left leg, and after consulting with a trusted member of the medical community that is also a family member, so he's not a write your prescription kind of guy. I am keeping the leg elevated for a few days. It turns out that with what I think this is, right, would be the Baker's cyst. And if that's the case, very oftentimes they get inflamed and just sort of get angry by things that you do. And over a period of time, if you keep it elevated, that can go back down and I can get another, 20 years of it not being a real issue for me. We're going to see how that works out. It was after elevating it all day long today, I was feeling pretty good. Until I came down to get into the office, and then it started giving me some trouble. But on the whole, I have not much to complain about. People, every once in a while, there are comments that are left, and you read them, and you say, boy, I wish I had said that, And on last night's show, there was a comment left by Kylie. So if you happen to get a chance, because I was just telling my bobble-headed partner, I'm switching out phone service. So right now, my business partner is like removing SIM cards and doing all of these things that I just have absolutely no aptitude for. And for that reason, I don't have one of my 3 cheat sheets in front of me. Normally, I would read the comment off of the phone. But to paraphrase, one of the conversations that we had was the differences between alcohol and drugs when it comes to things like, and by the way, I know alcohol is a drug, but differences when it comes to things like how accepted it is by society and things of that nature. And it seems that I didn't really touch on, on the fact that if somebody goes out and just makes a screaming ass of themselves on booze, there's Kylie right there. Yep. I was just talking about you. Great comment. It was about how when people really make an idiot of themselves, we slough it off, right? He was just drunk, or she was just drunk. No big deal. It's like the abuse of that particular drug is a get out of jail free card for acting like a moron, sometimes for days at a time, right? And at levels that are almost hard to imagine. What happened last night? Oh, so-and-so threw up on my mother. Just some of the things that happen, and you go, he's just drunk, So I wish that I had brought that into the discussion last night. I really do. But great comment. And if I had had my cheat sheet, I would have read it to you. So, people, last week we did a question and answer kind of a show, and actually, they never finish up that way. They start out that way because we tend to squirrel off in different directions based on some of the things that we begin to talk about, and then some people will call in, and that will maybe squirrel us off in yet another direction. But there are a whole host of questions that we did not get through, and a lot of them are recurring, right? We're getting so many people that are asking the same questions, and I'm not trying to sound like a jackwagon. I'm really not. But if I take the time to answer every single one of these, right, then I'm not getting to some people that I really probably need to talk to. So we're going to just knock out some of the most common questions. And if you got something you want to call in about, please feel free. E-Rock, good to see you. Feel free to to dial in. And if you're having any trouble with that, Virginia can probably help you.
Right? Yeah, let me say something before you guys get started here real quick. Just a little bit of technical crap here.
Do it up.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to put the link in the call number here in just a few minutes at the top of the chat. And again, guys, the number's always running at the bottom scroll, so you guys can see that. And the link won't be there because you can't put a link in there, but it will be at the top there, so you guys be able to do it. If you can't find the link, you find yourself can't find any of that, just type it in the chat, and I can put the link directly in the chat. So just know that that's a possibility, and I really would hope that people would call in tonight to have questions, because this is the time. Really, if you really want to ask something, this is probably a good time for it. And if you're too embarrassed to do that, I get it. Okay, I get all that. Put it in the chat. We'll try to answer it. So, anyway.
And if you're really too embarrassed for that, knock it off. Seriously, We're all family here. Yeah. No one's gonna pick on you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Stephanie Munoz, great to see you. Love Stephanie. Okay, so these are the questions that continually come up again and again and again and again, and so we're going to knock out as many of these as we can. And like my partner said, if you come across something that hits your mind and goes, boy, he didn't talk about that, or I have a question, please don't hesitate to pick up the phone and dial in. Hit the like button, comment, and share. Much love. Thank you so much, Brandon.
Welcome, Mama Tonic. Cool name.
Yeah, Mama Tonic. Got a couple of messages from her yesterday as well. So one of the questions that comes up constantly is this our job? And I find it funny because I'm guessing that you don't know a lot about YouTube. But no, this is not what we do for work. This is a labor of love. I work on watches. I buy and sell vintage watches and repair them, and that's what I do for work, which is why I have that big thing back there, winding automatic watches. So that is what my real job, so to speak. And this is the labor of love that I very much wish was my real job. There's nothing I like more than what we're doing here. So, but as of this moment, this is just a labor of love. I get a question about 6 times a day. What about legal drugs? What is our where do we come in on things like weed and mushrooms right now are legal in a lot of places. Ketamine is now becoming legal in some places here in the US. And on top of that, this is not always from the same people, but we also get the kratom and kratom, whatever you call it, and the legal highs that you can buy at places like head shops, right? Sometimes supplement stores or bodegas or whatever. So here's the deal on that. As far as drugs go, we're not hugely anti-drug. It may sound really ridiculous, but we're not. We're anti-addiction, right? Where we really come down on is that if you're using anything as a way to cope with life, other than coping skills, well, then that's probably a problem. Whether it's, binge eating to make yourself feel better, or whether it's watching porn, or whether it's, anything that you literally go, boy, you know what, I'm stressed out, I need to, right? Insert your favorite habit there. That is where it becomes a problem. And very often someone will say to me, weed is a great way to get off this, or weed is a great way to get off that. I've even had people say, how I got off of opiates? Using methamphetamine. You know what? God bless you. If that's what got you off of anything, you know what? That's awesome for anybody that found a way to get off. I absolutely applaud you, right? Here's the thing. If you want to come on here and tell somebody that the way that you got off of drugs was by methamphetamine, you may want to keep in mind that there are hundreds of people listening to this who are fighting with the addiction of methamphetamine. Okay. So if it's weed, if you say the way that I got off of meth was I just started smoking pot and it's a lot less bad for you and it's legal in a lot of states, I'm not going to argue any of those things, right? But booze is legal. If you quit doing heroin by drinking a fifth of bourbon a day, is that a good trade off? I don't know. I don't think so, right?
Well,
And
it
go ahead.
all drugs are legal if you get it the right way.
The majority.
Yeah.
Yeah, the majority.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
There's a few that they don't have prescriptions for yet, but yeah, basically all of them are. If you're getting ready to come in here and sort of glorify any substance, right? Think to yourself before you do, is there any chance somebody else here may be addicted to that substance? And if that's the case, then it might be good if you just hold on to that. Yeah, Josh B says it depends on whether you have an addiction or not. I suppose many can use it responsibly, but some cannot. Absolutely.
Yep.
And statistically speaking, just about any substance, literally any substance, has an abuse rate. And when they talk about abuse in this particular instance, they're talking about people that are so out of control they're going to wind up in prison or dead, right? Like the worst of the worst type of addiction is about 3%. Right, 3% is what they expect. If you put a drug into a environment, about 3% of people who try it are going to get out of control. They're going to basically go nonstop until they're either arrested or dead. Now, there could be as high as 10 to 12% who get addicted and don't rise to that level, but may need help. But there's always going to be a certain segment of the population that cannot control it. The thing to remember, people, is that the majority of those people are right here, right? Here on the boat, we're not talking about air quotes normal people, right? We're talking about people who are here more often than not because they have had a problem controlling one substance or another, right? So while these substances are legal and all of that, and is heroin is weed a better way to deal with life than heroin is? Yeah, but don't come here and recommend to people that they start smoking dope. It's just not really what we want to do. We got some people here we really care about who have spent 20 or 30 years trying to get off that substance. So always just defer to the other people on the boat. You follow me? Let's just err on the side of kindness. I'm not busting on anybody for any way they find to get off of anything. And I'm not saying weed's awful or any of that garbage. I'm just saying there's a lot of people here that are fighting a lot of different substances. So let's just not do that.
And I would say also too, guys, talking about something is different than glorifying something.
Absolutely.
Okay. So there's a way to say things without like saying, "Hey, man, everybody should try this," that kind of thing.
Right.
Or going back to past memories of good times you thought were good times, all that stuff. But yeah,
it's a good point too. Because we have to discuss things. It's not really an option. It's what we do. And as far as kratom, whatever you want to call it, occasionally it comes up in conversations. Here's the thing. If you do some research, you will find that there are a lot of people out there who develop a habit. Now, here's where we come in on this stuff. It acts on the mu2 receptor in the brain, which is the same thing that opiates act on, right? If you're buying something over the counter that is attaching itself to the mu receptor, I would be very cautious. When that product does not have any kind of an oversight with FDA or anything like that, the way they sell this, they fly under the radar and they can do just about anything they want with it. Once again, if it's working for you, great. Don't advocate for a substance here. It's just not really where we want to go. As addicts, if you recommend something to somebody, they're going to get addicted to it. People go, kratom's not addicting. I would be addicted to it by Friday, right? I promise you. If I did it, that's who I am, right? And I do know people personally who used it as a way to get off of opiates and then struggled for a year to try to get off that. So that's where we come in on that stuff. Is what it is.
Mental and physical addiction are two separate things, guys. Like
they absolutely are. They absolutely are.
Yeah.
Number two, I get this so often you would not believe it. Are you and Johnny's last name Scoville, like as in by birth? Because it would be a pretty wild coincidence if the fact that my brother can eat more hot stuff than just about anybody alive, and his last name happens to be the same as the guy who invented the way to tell how hot a pepper was, Wilbur Scoville, who invented the Scoville scale. We were not born Scovilles, right? Scoville started out as a name, basically to try to be anonymous somewhat on the net because we had kids and we didn't want to see them terrorized by trolls. Didn't work out anyway. Our kids got terrorized by trolls anyway. After sort of a little bit of doxing, that would explain why every once in a while someone will say, "Hey, I went and looked at such and such, and there was a name there, Miller or whatever." Yeah, yeah, that would be the name that I was born under. However, everybody on this planet calls me Tommy Scoville. I don't know that I could answer to my birth name at this point. So that's kind of how that. Yeah, it was not that much of a coincidence, people, that we just happened to have that last name. That really would have been odd. Um, what's the deal? Oh, okay, this is a good one. I've been getting this a lot in the last week. Some people are really bent out of shape that my partner and I have sold out in terms of having this become a type of membership site. Listen very carefully. Pretend for a hot second that right now, as I'm speaking to you, there is a way to buy memberships. Would this make anything that I'm talking about right now any different? Okay, that's exactly what it's going to be. The memberships are not going to affect what we do. It will not change in any single way, shape, or form. However, the people that get memberships are going to have access to some other things. But this is never going to change, not in any way. And these all go hand in hand with a couple of other questions, which I think is really funny. Do we intend to monetize? I get this about 6 times a week. We are monetized. We've been monetized for a long, long time.
Almost a year.
Basically, since we started, right? From less than 70 days in, we were able to monetize. We're really blessed because of the crew that we have. And there are people who think that's selling out. You remember the first question? Is this your job? We would like to be able to keep doing what we're doing, right? And do it at the level we do it at. We're getting some cards printed up for everybody, right? So that you have an opportunity to say to somebody who you think is in the life, just hand them what looks like a business card and say, "Hey man, check this out." I'm saying out of love, right? I'm not trying to bust you or anything else, just out of love. Will you check this out? So all of those things, is the way to drive that is through a process with things like selling memberships. Neil said, "I did not know." Niall said he did not know that we were not Scovilles. Yeah, we, sometimes we get that, but no, we were not. Neither of us were born with that. Yes, and the other one is, so what's next? Are you going to sell out to sponsors? 4 of you sent an email asking if that's the next step. Let's hope so.
Yep.
Right. Let's hope so.
Exactly.
We'll see if they come. Let's look big, huge sponsors so that we can push this out farther. We can help more people and we can do more stuff, because that's really the whole purpose of this. I assure you, it's not to drive a Ferrari, people. If you want to get rich, probably not the way to do it. Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
I just want to talk about this for a second because I deal with this I've had to deal with this on my other channel. And guys, I never monetized my other channel. I have other reasons for that, right? This is different. This is different because this is important enough to me and Tommy that we wanted to push it as far as we could. And if that takes us to the next level, that's what we're going to do. That's exactly what we're going to do. And we would be completely irresponsible with the gift that we've been given, this platform, if we didn't exercise it to its full ability. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. So Please understand that. And on the technical end of it, there's nothing going to change except for things will get better for people. There's going to be special things you guys can do if you want to be a member. It's not a requirement. When YouTube first started up, people used to have a problem hitting the subscribe button, if anybody would remember that, because they thought it was going to cost them money. Because that word subscription makes your mind think money. So when you hear membership, what do you think of? You think of money. I get that, right? But the tiers, and we'll go over some of that later on, the tiers of that is so, the lower end of that tier is, Anyway, it irritates me because
and it should, and make no mistake, people, that right now this is not an apology. There's no apologies for this. honestly, at this point, there's not a lot I wouldn't do. And I know that my partner feels the same way to push the lifeboat a little further and a little bigger, right? That's the whole goal. If we could get somebody that came in and said, we want to call this the such and such recovery, show, and we're going to give the lifeboat $1 million a year, but you have to call it blah, blah, lifeboat. Trust me, we put that name on the side of the boat and we drop 900 grand or more trying to see how many people we can help. Right.
Exactly.
That's really what this is all about. And it's always going to be what this is all about. So, but that one comes up a lot.
Yep.
Never quit quitting. What's the deal? And I have had just that, nothing else. Like, never quit quitting. What's the deal with that? Or what's the deal with the never quit quitting? This was the battle cry. Sorry, I got my leg elevated. So this was the battle cry for the first season. Never quit quitting. It was somebody had said it really early on, right before we started doing lives, and it really caught on, and it just sort of became almost like a motto on the lifeboat. And we made up some shirts. We do not make this shirt anymore. I get so many people that ask where they can get one of these. You know what? You can't. And I know that probably sounds crazy, and it probably sounds stupid to people trying to make some money. You should sell more of those shirts. The promise always was from the very beginning that, for the people that put up with us when we really sucked, right? Or they put up with us when we didn't have really an idea of how we were putting this together, when we were trying to go to other platforms and all of the things that people have had to endure, so to speak, and have done so. So we made a never quit quitting shirt, and we told them, you know what? Years from now, you'll be the people that have that shirt. We're never going to do another one. Yep. There will be a shirt coming out for season 2. We've been in the process of getting that designed. That one will never be reissued either. That's kind of how it goes, and we're going to keep doing it that way. So as much as we'd love to see everybody wearing one of these, a promise is a promise. Is a promise.
And we will always come up with different sayings too. Like,
absolutely.
What was when we had on the screen? Go out and save someone. That's another one that we had. Guys. I mean, hate the hate, not the hater. We said that for a long time. They're just things we kind of cycle through, and they're all good mantras for all of us to have, and that's why they stick. So
yep.
Yeah. Anyway.
This one I can answer the first half of, but my bobbleheaded partner will have to answer the second half of. One of the questions I get often is about my family. Is it just myself and my brother Johnny, or were there other siblings? We have 2 sisters. The reason that you don't see them very often is because they're normal. For real, very, very normal, very, very, they're normal people. And somehow Johnny and I missed that, that part of the family. We are most assuredly not normal, but that is our family tree. The other thing that people ask me is concerning you, Mark. Are you an only child? Do you have brothers and sisters?
That's a very interesting question. Thank you for asking, for even considering that, guys. I mean, I understand I'm not out there with my face out there, so I get it. But that's a legit question to ask. I have one sister, but I grew up an only child. So let me explain. My sister is 17 years younger than me, and there is nobody in between. My parents got married when I was 4, and they are my biological parents, which is something that was actually kind of strange. Just to be honest with you, my mom had 13 miscarriages and a tubular pregnancy, and then had two or three miscarriages after my sister. At that point, my dad took things into his own hands and went and took care of the problem there. But the fact of the matter is, my mom, and it was there. I don't remember a time in my childhood where there was really hardly any less sorrow in my house than any other day because of that. I didn't have a bad childhood, so don't get me wrong, but there was a lot of sadness there. But the one thing I got to look forward to, and this is what I tell everybody, and it's how I actually cope with things like this, is when I get to heaven, I got one heck of a family to go meet, and that's where I'm going to be. So just know that. My family reunion will be something special. So I get to meet 15 brand new brothers and sisters, not just in Christ, but
wow.
But yeah. So
yeah, that is a
and And
A family.
and one more thing on that, my mom actually had the tubular pregnancy, so she had one fallopian tube removed. So she got pregnant with my sister with one fallopian tube and carried her to term. So that in it
Wow, it's
that
amazing.
in itself, after 13 miscarriages, that in itself
Yeah, it's amazing.
is a complete miracle.
Yeah, it
And
is. No
she
question.
she is my daughter's one of my daughter's best friends, believe it or not.
Wow, it's
I got a nephew that's
it's
8,
wild.
and it's just really cool. It really is. It's really cool, and I love my sister so much. There is a generation gap there, obviously, but we talk to each other just like probably like Tommy and Johnny do. So it's different. It's a little different when when you're around each other like that. But it's just awesome. She's awesome, and my mom and my dad are awesome, and all that. So anyway, that,
Very cool.
yeah.
Very cool. By the way, Austin says, I have a good saying, maybe not for a shirt, though. I know I have another relapse in me, but not another recovery. I have always been a very, very big fan of that expression because I think it's so true for so many of us. I don't have another recovery in me. I promise you, I don't. Right. The next one would be the one that would take me off the planet. So, and amazingly, the Diary of a Madman said that at some point he would really like to have some kind of a conversation with my brother because he believes that Johnny has some wisdom he could impart. Huh?
He also said, I'm not sure if you've seen it or not. He's day 3 off of Subtext right now.
Yes. Yes.
We'll be praying
Well, I
for you.
didn't read that here, but I read that somewhere else. Absolutely
Yeah, he put it.
fantastic.
Yeah, that's a. Just know that this is when you're gonna have to be your strongest, man. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It gets very tough. The next few days are definitely going to be the hardest of it. Hey, Zenwen, good to see you. Um,
and reach out if you need to, diary. Seriously.
yeah, absolutely. The plug into everything that we've got going here, people. If you haven't taken the time, and I'm not telling anybody, if you say I gave up Facebook 6 years ago, okay, I get it. If you are on Facebook, right, go over and check out the Lifeboat. It is a private group. Why? Because it needs to be. Right. We will accept you into it. Worst case scenario, you might sit there for a day. But head over there and you have to put a request in. I will make sure that you get invited in. And it is another great resource for when the show is not live. You also can come here and leave messages. And if you leave a message, chances are it's going to get to somebody. And it's rare that you can't get a hold of somebody from the boat. It really is. That's just sort of a rare thing. Zenwin says, my sister is 17 years older than me. She wasn't supposed to be able to have any more children. My baby sister is 13 years younger than me, and we are incredibly close. Niall says, I was born as a blue baby. Umbilical cord strangled me. I was resuscitated 2 minutes and 47 seconds after delivery. The priest who gave me the last rites was named Niall McCarthy. Oh, that's a very cool story.
That's cool, man.
So I'm guessing that's a very cool way to catch a
that's
name.
awesome, man.
That really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a cool story.
And one thing I forgot to mention, just real quick, because I know it's kind of pertinent to the conversation, what I just said about my personal thing there. My mom actually had a miscarriage while my wife was carrying my first son. So that something that was kind of weird and she was so concerned about me and my wife and how we felt, she didn't tell us till after. So after my son was born, she didn't want to say hey and take anything from what we had going on. So, but that is something that I dealt with my whole life, and I don't want to focus on the negative there. I look at it as a positive because it has taught me a lot of how to deal with things, and I just again try to look at the positive. When I get to heaven, I get to meet them all, and there you go. So
Right.
anyway,
Very, very cool. There seems to be a decent amount of fascination um, when it comes to the prison system here in the US. I'm not exactly sure why that is. And I'm not angry at anybody about it. I don't dodge questions about this. The reason that I actually had a question that said, why don't you do a few shows on prison? We have done a few of them, not a lot. And the reason is, you know what? There's a ton of channels on YouTube that do a lot of talking about the prison system, state prison system, federal prison system, whatever. The algorithm, right, sends people to you very often based on what you talk about. And we would rather get people here for the reason that people should come here. And, so occasionally we'll do a show about it. The question that keeps coming up is how long did I do? How long have I been out? It was a federal sentence, actually, a couple of them back to back. And right around 10 years altogether is the amount of time that I did. And the charges, the first one was for bank robbery, and the second one was for sort of basically gun running. It's firearms that buying and selling firearms illegally is the I guess the term, and that was the second sentence. And believe it or not, people, I've been out of prison about 2 years and 4 days. That's how long I've been out of prison. Sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Yep.
Somebody, because when somebody sent that email, I was like, started doing the math and went, holy hell, I've not really been out that long. You know what I mean? It feels like it's been 6 or 7 years, but
to give you a little bit of a compliment, you don't act like it. So,
well, you know what? I appreciate that. That was another thing too, that, when I catch heat, even from some people that I really care about, there's a lot of you that would just assume not have any kind of ban on language here. Like we'd just be able to say whatever we want, especially because it's a tough subject. And, every once in a while you just might want to drop one. Here's the thing, I spent close to a decade where I promise you, I'm not exaggerating. I bet you I heard 5 or 6 sentences the entire time I was in there that didn't have an F-bomb in them. And I was no better. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I was cranking out sentences that didn't have them. You fall into that, and you sort of, it becomes such a part of your day to day that I was just a very foul mouthed individual. And once I started to get closer to the gate, I thought, good Lord, how are people going to take me? Right? I can't put a sentence together that doesn't have a curse in it. So it really kind of affected me in a serious way, because I got to the point where I really do believe that if you can't control your tongue, you're in trouble. Not only you got to do this for the rest of your life. I'm not telling anybody how to live, but you ought to be able to pull it off for an hour a day.
Yeah.
Right? An hour a day. How bummed out would you be if you thought, you know what? There's somebody out there that came by and saw 2 F-bombs in the comment section and just thought, I'm not going to check this out.
Yeah.
Right? At this point, people, that's the kind of crap that keeps me awake at night. Mm-hmm. And I know it's the same thing for Mark. That really honestly is the kind of stuff that we can sit and sort of get really focused on. We don't want to turn anybody away, even by accident.
Right. 100. And I think that, the thing to say there is that, we do fight and we do kind of push against that, but we also understand that a word is just a word to us, and we get that, right? It's just,
absolutely.
We try to be respectful in a way, especially and please don't take offense to this, to the older crowd, because that is a very offensive thing to people probably of 50 to older. That's what I would say. Nowadays words are changing, and they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But just keep that in mind, guys, when that happens. So if you do,
and he's right, because I'm in that older crowd.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear the F-bomb, I have to tell you, I say it quite often. In my life, I worked at a factory for 20 years. It's hard to get that out of you, but it's one of those things that when I still hear that word, it still hits me. I'm like, man, I just said something wrong. You know what I mean? Do you do the same thing? I mean, when you,
absolutely,
yeah.
And to me, I'll be honest, for me, it's like, I have made it such an issue that when I let one go, I feel like I'm out of control.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I'm not controlling myself. If that's coming out, because I'm never doing it, in a comedic fashion. Like if I'm dropping one of those, I'm usually angry, right? It's usually something that has vitriol dripping off of it. And
that's a great point.
Yeah. So
honestly, the anger part of it has to come in there. I mean,
for me, it really does.
Yeah.
Niall left a comment that I like. He says, even though you've been out of prison a short time, you learned and honed your craft long before that. So it never occurred to me as an issue. Thank you, Niall. I appreciate that. And there's something funny about that, because I kid you not, people, especially in solitary, I spent a very long period of time in solitary confinement. And I swear to you, I used to walk around the inside of that cell alone doing this show. I'm not kidding you. Not realizing, of course, that it was this show, but talking very much about, sobriety and sort of my slant on it, because by that point I was I was in the process of helping other people, and this was really becoming my focus. It was all the only thing I read about, the only thing I studied. By the way, the major is here, and if I am not mistaken, I believe he named his dog Wiggles.
Yeah, I caught that last night over on Trinity's channel.
I believe
Wiggles.
called Wiggles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Wiggles was named last night over on Marfugal Jams.
Was that where
It's
you?
where that
Yep.
that is where that took place. And you know what? I think he read my comment. I can't take credit for that. I stole it from somebody else. And then I put it up. I was like, "Ooh, that is a good name." And then I think everybody thinks that I did it. I didn't. I was a completely stolen.
It's awesome.
Absolutely
It's
one of those
awesome
things.
though. I mean, really.
It is a really cool name for his dog.
Yeah.
I was fond of Margaret Thatcher, but Wiggles is a close second.
That's
It
hysterical.
is a close second. One of the other questions that comes up very often, and only recently, for obvious reasons, but there are a lot of questions concerning my brother and myself and our drug use. And if I gave you one of those answers that said "stay tuned" or "keep watching" or whatever, a lot of people have emailed me and said, I just had a quick question. We do intend to like blow out all of the history of my brother and of myself, and sort of the interaction there with drugs and other drugs, crime, all kinds of other stuff. But I don't want to start answering those in emails, because it's going to steal the thunder from a show that you're probably going to enjoy. At least I hope you're going to enjoy. So
Yep. I think that's probably going to end up being like, when we talk about like doing a series of videos talking about that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. We're a part 2 is coming up in the very near future, and so stick around. I don't want to give any of that away prior to that.
And congratulations to Johnny for making it home.
Right? I'll tell you what.
Wow.
I talked to him a little while ago. This was not an easy one for him. This definitely was a
I
really,
texted him last
really
night,
ugly.
and it was like, you could tell it was really, really bothering him. That would suck.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, we got 2 people in here right away. All right, I'll go first here. You want to bring somebody in, or you want to answer their question or anything?
I say we make them stay there for a really long time.
Okay.
No, go ahead, bring them in.
I'm kidding. Let me bring. I'm not sure who this is. All
right,
you're.
Hello.
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 Is it Johnny?
How you doing, man?
What's up, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh man,
good.
You see it? Well, maybe, unless you're just listening.
Is that right now?
So what's up?
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you, man.
I'm trying to adjust my phone and play with the settings for some phone thing I'm doing at the same time. I'm good. I hope you guys are great. I just wanted to call in and say hi, and hope you guys are all doing wonderfully.
Is this on a new phone service?
Yeah, that's the new. Yeah, exactly. That's why it's kind of discombobulated, because I'm doing this on the fly kind of, which is kind of weird.
Well, I'm really happy because I'm switching to the same service today, so it's good to know that it at least worked. So when I get off, I have to do the same thing. So I'm glad to know that it's at least working for you.
Awesome.
So how ugly was it? What time did you get home today?
It's really funny. I got home at 6 o'clock. I was supposed to this evening. We ended up making time. They say you're in great shape. We made 30 minutes up on the flight. Thinking, why aren't they putting the pedal to the floor all the time? They can fly faster all the time, and they don't.
They can. It's a fuel issue, I think.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, but you know what? You can probably charge more if you can get people there quicker. I don't know.
I would pay for it. Yeah, I would pay for it.
Yeah.
Yep. Everything went well, though. It was an interesting trip, because as I was talking to you earlier, Tommy, throughout the trip, like constantly, these things were happening. And they pop up, and I, for a lack of a better word, it was almost like a test, or I don't know. I'd find myself in a spot where I could a learning moment, a profound learning moment, where I have a certain way I can behave and grow as a man and as a person. And those happened. I was telling Tommy, it seemed like it happened every 30 minutes for like 3 days straight. Something was popping up where I was like in a spot where this can be growth, or I can just kind of loaf through it. And it was a great trip.
Well,
Uh,
I'm glad you made
and
it
you know
home.
what I was telling him, and I'd be curious to know if how other people feel about this, but he said that he just doesn't feel like this, these opportunities never really jumped in front of him in the past. And I said, yeah, no, they did. Those opportunities for growth happen every single day. And to air quotes, normal people. But when you're in the life and you're, in the process of just, abusing yourself and doing all those, you never see those things. Or if you don't have any perspective, there are people out there that are air quotes normal, um, that probably miss a lot of that too. When you transfer from being addicted and being in that active lifestyle to being a sober individual, right? You're chemical free and you're really trying to better yourself on a daily basis. You start to notice these things. And I don't believe that they just start to jump in front of you the second that you're living that life. I think that they've
Well,
always
not
been
that.
there. Go ahead.
I think when you're using and you're in the life and you're using, you're on an autopilot more than you're not. And I think when you're sober, you're living way more purposefully, and that kind of changes your perspective. I think
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's no doubt.
Do you find you?
I remember somebody telling me real quickly. Somebody told me a long time ago, and I kind of adopted this. And I should have told you, Tommy, but this person said to me, "Live your life in such a way that you sort of feel like at any moment something spectacular is going to just pop up in your life and surprise you." And I challenge everybody listening to do that, because I promise you, if you do, you're going to see things popping up all over the place. And I don't know that you're drawing that stuff into your life, who knows, or you're just aware and you're looking for it. But I'm telling you, that's kind of how I live. And you wouldn't believe the things that are popping up left and right.
I would say see all of the above.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Do you find yourself like when stuff like that happens, like you didn't expect any of that layover, change of flights and all that stuff, and it does, and I know that you guys have talked about having, anger issues and stuff, but the other thing involved there, especially when you're like at an airport, the alcohol is right in front of your face. I mean, is that something that you struggle with or not?
And it's funny you said that, because I had, excuse me, I had just, like I told Tommy on the phone earlier, I made like an OJ Simpson and sprinted across the airport, and I got to the gate where you got to remember, I was in Dallas and I was going to fly to Charlotte, North Carolina. So I ran to the gate and in the nick of time to catch a flight where I was going to fly to Salt Lake City, Utah, have an hour layover, and then catch an even longer flight back to Charlotte, which seemed absurd, but there was no flights anywhere, and I wanted to get home to see my son. So I said, I'll take that. So they booked that. We got the flight, and I sprinted across. I get there, and as I'm walking up, it says flight canceled. So I'm walking by, and I walk by this Irish bar, and I'm telling you, it's I'm just being honest with you now. Well, I never had a craving. Not when my dad died. Since I quit, I've never once had that inkling or that yearning. And I saw that Irish bar, and for just a split second, I thought, oh, well, I love like a pint of draft beer right now, and just sit down and just stop. And I caught myself, and I swear to you, Tommy told a story a while back. I can't remember exactly the details, but I caught myself thinking to myself, what in the world are you thinking? Got 3 years, 6 months, 28, I don't know how many days, sober. Each day is like a chip to me. Some people, I know someone who's sober just to get the chip. I kid you not, the coin. To me, every day is a coin. I got 3,600, that's a long time. I'm not giving that up. And I remember thinking, what? And then the second I thought to myself, what in the world are you thinking? It was gone. That feeling was gone, and I was fine. Then I proceeded to sit down, and I'm kind of at my worst. They're going to get a hotel for me because there's no more flights. I'm sitting down, and there's a man and woman across maybe 20 feet away, and they're looking over. The guy's looking at me, and he's whispering to the girl he's with, and then they both start looking at me. I'm like, okay, they know me. They're going to come over. And I thought this is one of those moments. I was saying to Tommy, this is one of those moments. I'm like, man, my rubber band's pulled so far, any more it's going to snap. And it was a moment. I didn't want to be a jerk. I wanted to. They're expecting Johnny Scoville, not a lunatic in an airport that wants to rip the head off of anybody with a badge that says American Airlines on it. So they walked up and they said, Johnny Scoville. I said, hey, how are you? And I tried to be as upbeat as I could. And they said, you're going to Australia, right? I said, no, not quite. Soon, though.
Man, talk about kicking you while you're down. Wow.
Right? And the funny thing is, I was sitting down when that happened. It was amazing. It was just one of those moments. But to be honest with you, Mark, just to answer your question, much shorter. Yeah, it was the first time ever.
Wow. Well, brother, you handled that really well, I have to say. Yeah, guys, it's a great example of a true trigger. That's a trigger. He didn't know it was coming, and it just blindsided him. So that's a true trigger.
Fact.
Great. And you know what else? And like we always say, you know what I mean? You get by that it didn't take you 45 minutes, did it? Right?
No.
30 seconds of changing what you were thinking about. And I think what you were trying to remember was me and my headphones. I needed headphones, and I went into a store and I looked around because I realized I didn't have my credit card, but my business partner had it. And I was like, damn, I had to call him and have him drive up there. I'm like, there is nobody in here.
I mean,
I robbed banks. How hard would it be to stick this in my pocket and walk out the door? And I was like, no, what the hell's the matter with you?
Exactly.
But just a couple of seconds, change your thought and so quickly, and hold both of you 1 second, because this is key and I don't want to squirrel it away. Damon said, he didn't realize prior to getting sober just how dead that he really was.
Yep.
And now that he's sober, and I think so many of us go through this, you start to experience life, and it's just fun and it's exciting. And there were so many things about it. Everything's not perfect. It's not. But when it's good, it's a different kind of good. And you're experiencing it and realizing that good, bad, or indifferent, you're alive, and you're not when you're wasted. And I think that's such an awesome comment. And Angel Wings thought the same thing, because she chimed in and said, yeah, it's exactly what happened. She's talking about going outside and just smelling the air and looking around.
Yeah, there's something else too.
Beautiful stuff.
Go ahead. He was changing, Johnny, you were changing your environment the whole time you were moving too. So that was kind of the natural progression of things. You were kind of on the move. Plus, I bet you were dealing with boredom. That is a huge trigger for people. Just being bored.
The biggest issue with this was I just wanted to spend time with my son, and then, I really think if that wasn't on the table, if that was an issue, if he was leaving 2 months from now, I would have been like, relax, just gotta sit back. And I really wouldn't have bothered me, but
that's not true.
In my ear.
That's not true. I'm sorry, that's not true.
He's calling you, man.
No, that's not even close to true. I mean, you may have been a lot cooler, but you've never been the guy that would deal with that kind of stuff. Like, oh yeah, no big deal. That's just not true.
I will say this.
I love you, but that's not you.
I said last night, I was on the phone with a guy getting my ticket from the crew, and he's talking to me, and he goes, do you want to get a hotel or a flight? I said, dude, you got to get me a flight or bail money. That's what you're going to have to get.
That sounds more like my brother. There you go.
But I want you to know something. Honest to goodness, this is the truth. I've apologized to that guy a half a dozen times. He's a wonderful guy, and I love him, and he understands, and it was a good thing. I'm going to let you guys go. I just want to call in and say hi. One thing I want to tell you guys real quickly. I'm so proud of something right now. I am sober. My channel is 6 years old. I'm sober longer for my channel than I was drinking. So the majority of my channel at this point is a sober channel. And I'm just super excited about that. And every day from this forward, this is how it works. Love you guys a lot. Love you, Mark. Love you, Tommy. And I love the boat.
Love back at you, brother. Hey,
thank you so much.
Man.
Appreciate you calling in, brother.
Yep, for sure. All right, so let me bring Niall in. We'll get Niall in here for a minute.
Good. Major says, life is beautiful when you can see it. It's a great comment, Major. Great comment. Cool. Niall.
I just brought him in. I'm not sure if he can hear us yet or not. Can you hear us now? I see he popped in there. There you go.
Is there a mute button?
I think now he's good. You good now, Niall? Maybe, sort of.
Yes.
There he is.
There you are.
There you are, bud.
That voice anywhere.
Oh, yeah. How are you? I'm just laughing to myself here. I was listening to Johnny speaking, and I was thinking that his trigger about the Irish bar. An Irish man was coming on after his phone call is kind of ironic, don't you think?
Yeah.
100.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, there could be something spiritual being read into that. I mean,
and I'll tell you something that's really funny too, Niall. I swear to you, this is the truth. When he was saying that, I remembered a story you said once when you and I were on together, where you were standing looking in at people who were drinking and
Mm,
just being so angry at them that they could just that they had the capacity to do that and that you
yes.
couldn't. And you were looking in the window just pissed. And I
Yeah.
remember that story just came to me as soon as you said
Yeah,
that. Man.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that that story will stay with me forever. That, Johnny, I just want to go in and have a pint of Guinness in an Irish bar, and he's quite passionate about it when he was talking to you a few
Yeah.
minutes ago, and I was sitting there going, "Hello, I'm I'm the guy you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mention something, and I won't go on for long because I know there's only a few minutes. But they're putting a bill to the Irish government at the moment
Yep.
to extend the opening times of nightclubs in this country from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Okay, and we have a massively dysfunctional relationship with alcohol. The police are out. Well, I live pretty close to a major city, and sometimes I go to concerts and gigs and stuff like that. And what you see on the streets, even at 2 or 3 in the morning, is the police are there. They're everyone. If you open a bar 24 hours a day, the Irish will drink in it. That's the way it works.
Right.
So the politicians are actually extending that to 6 a.m. So what that effectively means that all the stuff that is cleaned up by the police and the local councils with broken bottles and vomit and people
Right.
passed out in doorways is now being extended to 6 a.m., which means that people will be falling onto the streets, at the same time as early morning commuters will be making their way to work. So, 6:30, 7 a.m. And they will be extremely drunk because Irish people don't drink like normal people. So, if a bar stays open or a nightclub stays open till 6 a.m., they will drink till 6 a.m. So you're facing a detrimental influence and draw on the emergency services, because what will happen is you'll have the buses will be right,
Sure.
Yeah.
people will be driving into the city, you'll have all these drunk guys falling into the street, people will start arguments and rows,
And
all the
how many
stuff that
drunk people will be driving right at that time of the
Yeah,
day too?
exactly.
they get into their car and join the early morning traffic, and
Right.
off you go. And not to mention, people will be going into early morning stores because
Yeah.
all the burger joints will be closed at that stage,
Who
right?
the heck is
Yeah.
saying even brought that up? That is
Thank you. That was I
crazy.
was waiting for Niall to finish so I could say,
Wow.
Niall, is there somebody that's articulating a reason why they think this is a good idea? I mean,
This is
obviously it's money,
It has
but
to be. Yeah.
what's their
no,
story?
it's down to denial of money. So the police, of course, are going crazy about this, but they don't put them on the air. Um, the professionals are going crazy about this for years, and I think I got the title of the video right. That questions and answers, they kind of cancel each other out at times. It's like, if we can make money from this from the top down, whether it's legal or illegal, we will do so. If you have people getting run over in the street, if you got people who are going into a shop to buy a sandwich roll at 7:30 in the morning, and there's a bunch of drunk assholes in the shop. I mean, it's really serious. But the government are kind of like, we have to stay in line with Europe. Now, I realize that some of this is cultural, right? We are a nation that is culturally, I suppose, predisposed to alcohol addiction and heroin addiction, all drugs. We are culturally predisposed. It is in our culture. So we're not German, we're not French, we're not sophisticated. Like, if you're a German, you could go into a bar at 4 a.m. and have a couple of beers and walk out at 5 a.m. It's just a horrible. I posted something on my Facebook page about this, and it's a horrible. It's madness. I just like your take on it, and I realized, like, culturally, much larger country in your case, blah blah blah. But I think in our case, it's just going to cause the emergency services, and it's also going to put into operation a whole new way of looking at things. You're going to have a lot of drunk people wandering around in the morning, in the daylight,
Yeah.
walking into traffic, causing problems, hassling people. So I just want your thoughts on this. That's all.
I'm honestly blown away.
Yeah. That's
And you know, like you said, this is we're a bigger country, and there are places in this country that do this. There are places you can go into in America where the bars are only closed for about an hour a day, and those places are pretty much the way you describe. You know what I mean? Like, and some of them I'm very fond of. You know, I spend a decent amount of time in New Orleans, but you go down there for Mardi Gras, like nothing closes. You know, they take an hour to sweep every cigarette butt and and bum out of the place onto the street, and then they go again, and it's nothing good can come of this. It's just a really bad idea, and I can't imagine that the amount of money that this is going to bring in for those whatever extended hours, 3 or whatever, it's going to be a net loss when you think about accidents and laws being broken and people having to be put in jail and all of the different
just
things.
Monetary too, not to mention the loss of life.
And the answer is really evil, no matter which way you look at it. The government will explain this as economical growth in line with Europe, right? So, but what the politicians fail to address is that the Irish and the Scottish and the English and all of the British Isles, in fact, do not drink like the rest of Europe. If you give them enough hours to drink, they will drink themselves into a stupor. Not to mention the money that these individuals will be spending. So if you have, €200 to go out and eat in a restaurant, and then someone says, hey, there's a nightclub open till 6 a.m., you're guaranteed to spend every last penny you have, even though you might have a wife and children at home, because that's a cultural kind of zeitgeist, And
Right.
it's what really makes me mad, Tommy and Mark, is that the money-making machine is more powerful than the message,
Right.
And the message is you can talk to any cop, any emergency service person, and now, they have a bigger problem when this legislation goes through. They have to start thinking about that there's going to be so many drunk people wandering around the streets at rush hour,
Rush hour, yeah.
So I just thought I'd throw that out there. It's
going to end up a net loss. I guarantee you it is. No matter what you bring in, the amount of chaos, which costs money, right? Yeah. Fights, broken windows, wrecked cars, the legal system. I mean, what it takes to put somebody, I don't know about your country, but here in the US, to put somebody through all of that. Anytime somebody gets arrested and has to go to court, you're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And if they take it all the way to, to trial, it could be $60,000, $70,000.
Even what's the average price of somebody that's in jail? Ain't it like $30,000 a month?
No, it's in the feds. It's $38,000 a year.
Okay.
County jails, depending on where you go, they can be really ugly.
I mean, that's just one.
Sometimes it's $200 a day.
That's one person we're talking about. I mean, what Niall's talking about here, it's going to be a massive problem. Oh my God,
it's going to be a huge problem.
I'm appalled, man, for real.
I know you're at the top of the hour, but this is not it's kind of a lecture, but it applies to any alcoholic or any drug user or whatever, but it's specifically alcohol. If you extend the opening hours into the daylight world, it's a different scenario. So you can spill people onto the street at 3 a.m., right? The police and the local emergency services will usually clean it up by
the time the sun's coming up.
Yeah. But if you have people wandering around and picking fights, smashing bottles over each other's heads at 8 a.m. or 7:30 in the morning when children and people are in cars trying to get to school, or commuters are trying to get to work. And I'm just incredibly amazed that this legislation has to go through because of the EU guidelines.
It's awful.
It's just a way to make money. That's all. So I want people to think about that. That's the reality.
Yeah.
And I think unless there really is a difference in culture too. I mean, for those that are hearing him talk about this, and when somebody says it's a cultural thing, there are places where so much of life revolves around the local. Zen Wen, thank you. Where you get these people that there's a local establishment, and that's what do you do at night? That's where you go. Like, this is just, it's such an ingrained part of society. And I'm not bagging on any society, but I've been to many countries where it's just so different than it ever is here. Like that's where everything social happens.
Yep.
There really is no socializing that isn't taking place outside of a pub or a nightclub or whatever. You're right, Niall. It's a terrifying concept. It really is. And the fact that it's just money is just God awful.
And I hope the people that are over here in the States with us, Tommy, understand it. This is actually just, it puts a focus that this thing is a worldwide issue. Addiction is a worldwide thing, guys. And I know those of us who are in the Western society, we sometimes are blinded to that fact. But there's people everywhere. And, like the Major, UK. You got Niall over there, Irish. Right. So I mean, and then a lot of Australians, a lot of New Zealanders, just people all over the world, guys, and they're dealing with the same issues. Okay, so that's why that this needs to be talked about, and we're using the internet for that reason. It's one of the biggest reasons. You touch everybody that wants to be touched.
Niall, can you do me a favor? I know we keep you really up late at night, but man, can we call in next week? When is this vote going to take place?
Yeah.
It's actually taking place during the week. There are some objections to it, but they're only from the minority of parties.
Because this is a subject you could talk about for a lot longer.
Yeah, and it's going to go through. It's simply going to go through because the drink companies demand it. And they make a lot of money. Same with tobacco, and same with all of these things. So I think the reason I just bring this up, I'll finish now very quickly because I know you're going to shut down. But I think at many times you have addressed alcohol, which I've checked out your earlier shows, and I really appreciate the two of you doing that, because alcohol is just as destructive as any drug out there.
Absolutely.
And it can affect an entire culture dramatically. Some people think it's very artistic and very kind of, play a few fiddles and bows and go into an Irish bar or whatever. But the truth is, this current generation, this young generation that are moving into alcohol for the first time, it's going to be horrific. It's going to be horrific. It's going to be endless violence. The only difference between us and the States is just more spread out in the States. But at the same time, it's still, air quotes, socially acceptable.
I don't truly get appalled very often, and that really did piss me off. Sorry.
Yeah, it's staggering. I get you. I completely get you. And we need 10, 15 more minutes on this. But with all of the drugs that are coming into every single place in the country, and in the world rather, that's really what you need is 3 more hours of alcohol to mix with all of the stuff that's coming in. That's terrifying. Niall, please do call in next week. I would love to continue this.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
See you now. Have a good week.
Love the show. Yep. Great to see you again.
You too, bud.
Yep. Thank you so much, Niall.
Yep. Talk soon.
Love his accent. Vivian P., you have my word. We will be doing a show on alcohol and Suboxone, I promise you. And if there's something that you need to ask about either of those things between now and then, reach out to myself or my bobbleheaded partner, and we will be happy to talk with you between now and then. Okay. So people, you do realize this is Friday night here at the Lifeboat. So Mark and I will be off until Friday night. We will see you in 2 days. So if you missed any of the shows from this week, get back there and watch them. If you were lucky enough to have caught all of them, go back and watch them again. And we will see you on Friday night. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, Mark Wages. Thank you so much to all of our mods and to the callers. Great night. And this, right there, is a cat in a basket. Not a happy one. That's a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.